Hi everybody, I'm Jamie. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to week 14. We're going to recap last week's games, talk through waiver wire pickups, and wrap things up with some pick'ems and DFS plays for next week's games, or this upcoming week. So let's dive into week 14, which is a great week to be in, especially if you're watching this, because that probably means you made the playoffs. If you did, congrats. Pat yourself in the back. Great place to be. And if the playoffs aren't this week, they're just around the corner, I'm sure. So we're going to make sure that playoff push is successful for you and that you have hopefully your bench rounded out well and that you don't have to play any of these pickup players because, that could definitely make things a little bit questionable. But we're going to make sure you got the support you need. Let's start by recapping last week's games. I've been waiting for a great week to pull up my throwback Wes Welker jersey. And I thought after the buzzer beater by Brandon McManus, and I thought a pretty solid performance by Drew Lock, that it was a great week to do that. So they are not in the playoff picture like you, but I thought that it was a good morale win for them. Another win by Miami that really stood out to me. Let's get real, Miami, not really a chance in the playoff picture right now, but really kept the Cowboys in the hunt. And I think that the Eagles really let one slip away. Kind of an unforgivable loss for them and keeps the Cowboys in some hopes, I think. And I really think, personally, I think the Cowboys are the better of the two teams right now. I think they've got more talent, better running back situation. And honestly, I think Dak's really had a solid year. Not a great week for him last week, but I think the Cowboys are the better of two teams. But that division is just not great. And I don't know if they're going to go far into the playoffs, but I think the Cowboys win it, to be honest. A couple other really great games. Niners-Ravens. Can't help but talk about that one. Niners looked a lot better than I thought they would. I thought this was a closer game than expected, and I think a lot of people would agree, especially with the weather conditions. I thought the Niners came out strongly, but not enough to beat Lamar Jackson, who seems unbeatable at this point. Seahawks-Vikings, another really great game. Seahawks really started to run away with it, and I thought Kirk Cousins did a great job of keeping them back in it and really spreading the love and the ball without, Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen. But great duel between those, and the Seahawks look like they could actually make a play for that division at this point. The Niners have a tough schedule going forward, so that one's going to be a fight to the finish, but I think both of them definitely make the playoffs. Let's get real. I don't know statistically what their odds are, but a really solid division, I think, from top to bottom. Texans, crazy upset against the Patriots. Obviously, I think the Patriots bounce back, but the Texans looked a lot better than I feel like they've looked at many points throughout the season, and they're starting to run away with the AFC South. The Colts took a tough loss that, I really thought should not have happened. But, lots of controversy with Adam Vinatieri on that one, so I'm sure many have lots to say on that. And that block kick did not help. But the Titans actually look very dangerous, too. They're not a team to take for granted at this point. Let's dive into some of the waiver wire pickups for this week. Wide receiver-wise, a couple that stand out to me that I like. Russell Gage, got to mention him. He's really definitely settled into that Mohamed Sanu guy role, and Mohamed Sanu guy. He had 9 targets last week, 11% owned in many leagues, and I think a decent play in the flex spot if you have to. Randall Cobb's another one. He's 36% owned, which is kind of crazy. I guess many people don't need much support at this role, but lower target volume last week for him. He's also sick this week, so keep an eye on that. Another one that I do like is James Washington to some degree. He's been consistent the last 5 games or so. Only 4 targets last week, but he had over 100 yards and a touchdown, so pretty decent performance from him, 23% owned. If you need somebody, he could round out your bench, hopefully. And maybe be, all of those I think wouldn't be bad flex plays if you have to. Running back-wise, Patrick Laird is probably one of the more favorited pickups this week. Keelan Ballage went to IR. Now, he was pretty awful when it came to his yards per carry. He was 10 carries for 5 yards, but one of them was a touchdown. He also got 5 targets, caught 4 of them for 43 yards, decent. So if you're in a PPR league, maybe pick him up. It'd be interesting to see how he does this week. I don't feel comfortable starting him. He had a 2-point conversion. I feel a lot more comfortable starting somebody like Rashad Penny. He's 57% owned. Wasn't sure whether this was the real deal last week, to be honest, but I'm getting flashes of the Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram tandem from last year that was pretty unstoppable. Now, I would say we're a little bit of a step below that, but between Chris Carson and Rashad Penny, they've been very, very consistent. Rashad Penny, the last two games, has averaged over 100 yards, had 3 combined touchdowns in the air and on the ground, and looks very, very solid. their running game has been better than it was ever since Marshawn Lynch was there. And they showed the numbers, I think, last week, but I've been so underwhelmed with how poor their running game has been, or how inconsistent. They just have had such a running back by committee the last 3 to 4 years, and it's been very inconsistent. But if they're finally getting back on track, and I like Rashad Penny, I think he's been solid along with Chris Carson. Another option, Darius Juice, 51% owned. He looked very good. He's looked decent coming off of injury. He's only 51% owned. 10 carries for 129 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 of 3 in the air for 8 yards. I'm sure he's everybody's favorite this week to pick up. He looked good. Adrian Peterson's still available out there. He didn't have an awful game. I mean, obviously you got to go with Darius Juice over him right now, without a doubt. But AP could get you, at this point maybe 5 to 8 points if you absolutely need somebody. And Raheem Mostert is, an option if none of these people are available. I don't like him that much, but the 49er running back position situation is just not really something I want to touch right now. Unfortunately, I have Tevin Coleman in one of my leagues, and he's been a disappointment. Matt Breida is probably coming off of injury this week, so, if he does, that probably means Raheem Mostert's role is going to diminish, appropriately. So tread carefully there. Quarterback-wise, I like Ryan Fitzpatrick, to be honest. If Ryan Tannehill is available, obviously pick him, but I think a lot of people have already jumped on that train. Ryan Fitzpatrick's 11% owned. He's been pretty consistent the last 2 games. 5 touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. So pretty good stuff, and he's getting on a roll. I really think he's gelling well with Mike Gesicki and Devontae Parker. Mike Gesicki's only 19% owned in many leagues. He's one of the top contenders at the tight end position for me. He's had a touchdown in his last 2 games, and really seems like he's got some good chemistry with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Another one, 58% owned. Gotta mention him again, Jack Doyle. Even if you like your tight end, really consider Jack Doyle. 6 of 11 for 73 yards and a touchdown. He has been really, I would call it a crutch for Jacoby Brissett in the year that he really first started when Andrew Luck got hurt. And with Eric Ebron in there, that's really kind of tapped into some of the target share that he's had this year. But he's always been a consistent factor within that offense. And with Eric Ebron on IR, I really like Jack Doyle. Had a great performance just as expected. Defensively, if you were streaming defenses, I do like Indianapolis against Tampa this week. 27% owned. The only tough part is, Indy's defense has been decent, but, I really think Jameis Winston has that ability to either just light it up and kill it, and even when he lights it up and kills it, he's probably going to have 2 interceptions, let's get real. But he either does that or he's just, doesn't show up at all, but checks in and suits up. Another one I like is Minnesota, 64% owned versus Detroit. Obviously, Detroit kind of struggling as of recent. Tennessee versus Oakland. I like Tennessee versus Oakland. They're 30% owned. Let's get into some pick'ems for this week. Cowboys, I got them beating the Bears. This is a big matchup for both of them, really, I think. Both of them kind of have to win. Bears, they don't really look like they have that great of a chance, but the Cowboys absolutely have to win this one. They're away. But I have them winning. I think they're going to bounce back. It's like make or break for them in this game. I've got the Falcons at home against the Panthers. Yeah, pretty crazy with Rivera getting fired. I feel like the Panthers are just, even without Cam Newton, I just feel like they're really still underachieving. I think they're a very dangerous team. That's the thing. Christian McCaffrey's just absolutely killed it this year. He's been a stud. Bills at home, I got them beating the Ravens. I just felt like doing something crazy, and I've got the Bills beating them because I just feel like they might take them for granted, And the Bills, they're such a good team that I feel like kind of lacks identity, to some extent. John Brown's been a stud this year. If you pick John Brown, props to you. Great pick. I've been really impressed with John Brown this year. And anyway, Bills I think could be a little bit of a thorn in their side. I've also got the Browns beating the Bengals at home. The Browns are at home. I think they bounce back. Shout out to Andy Dalton getting that win for the Bengals. It's big stuff. I kind of expected that once I knew he was starting. Packers, I got them beating the Redskins at home. They better win that game or it's not a great situation for them. Vikings, I've got them beating the Lions at home. I've got the Niners beating the Saints who are at home. So big. That would be an upset, but I've got the Niners bouncing back. I've got the Dolphins beating the Jets who are at home. The Jets did not look great last week. I've got the Colts. I've got the Colts upsetting the Bucks at home. The Bucks are at home. We'll see what Bucks team shows up. I've got the Broncos upsetting the Texans at home. Crazy. It's not just because I'm wearing this jersey. I've got like so many jerseys. I like the Broncos. I like John Elway. But I don't know. I just feel like the Broncos are kind of just, they fly under the radar. They're not really great. And if you take them for granted, they might just, creep up on you. I've got the Chargers upsetting the Jags. Another team I think that has that upsettable capability. The Jags are at home. Don't get me started on the Nick Foles benching. I know, it made sense, and Gardner Minshew actually looked better. He didn't look great at first, but he actually put points on the board. Nick Foles, I love you. What the heck happened, man? Sorry, just true confessions going on here. Sorry to put you through that. Titans, I've got them beating the Raiders at home, upsetting them. The Titans look good. Ryan Tannehill, props to Ryan Tannehill. I'm actually really happy to see him thriving with what I would call a very, very mediocre surrounding situation within the Titans. Derrick Henry has actually been coming on strongly, so he's been decent, but he's a beast. He should run over everybody and stomp them. It's like that game, it's like when you play Mario and you jump on people and you just stomp on people and make them smaller. Man, I'm getting crazy. It's too late. I should have stopped earlier. But anyway, I'm going to bring this home. I've got the Pats beating the Chiefs at home. I've got the Steelers beating the Cardinals, at home. That's going to be an upset if they beat them. Apparently, they're not favored at home. I got the Seahawks upsetting the Rams, who are at home. And that one kind of blows my mind. The Rams are still favored to win that one because the Seahawks are dominant right now. I've got the Eagles beating the Giants, and the Eagles are at home. DFS-wise, I'm matching up Fitzmagic at 6K with Devontae Parker at 6,900. I went dumpster diving for Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I was not disappointed last week when I had DFS. I played quite a few of them, but that was a solid matchup last week. I like Jimmy Garoppolo at 5,600 because, hey, anything could happen. And I like Deebo Samuel at 5,600 or George Kittle. I would pair him up with that. Other wide receivers, DJ Moore has been just a stud all year. He's been consistent. If you picked him, I'm going to give you a shout out again. Solid pick, especially for where you got him in the draft. He's 7,000. I think he's worth every penny of it. Not that you pay in pennies in DraftKings. But Keenan Allen, I think he's a steal at 6,600. He's always a threat. Running back wise, I like Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's really rebounded this year, and I've liked what I've seen recently. He's been a pretty solid staple, and he's been very involved in that offense the past 3 to 4 weeks. He's 5,800, and I really like Austin Eckler too. If you picked Austin Eckler, solid for you. Melvin Gordon really, I think, fell short on playing out this situation because I think that's really hurt him coming in, and Austin Eckler has continued within that role even once he came back. So he's been dishing out 20 points almost every single week. His PPR stat, he's been one of the best PPR running backs, I think, all year. Aaron Jones always has that upset capability where he can really just turn it on, and he's had a few back-to-back, really 3 weeks previously, that he's been a little bit more quiet. So I think he could turn it on. If you want to go dumpster diving, Raheem Mostert could be interesting. Keep an eye on whether Matt Breida plays. So tight end wise, I like Kyle Rudolph at 4,400. If Adam Thielen plays, that could be interesting. But I will say, I think Kyle Rudolph has gotten back to a point where he's very trusted in this offense again, and he's gotten very well integrated back into it. Jack Doyle at 4,600, I like it. Keep in mind, it's impressive. Pretty big jump from last week. He was 3,300 last week, and now he's 4,600. But I still like him there. And if you want to go lower on the end, if you need to save a little bit in your lineup, I like Ryan Griffin, and I like Mike Gesicki. Defensively, I like the Steelers at 3,500 against Arizona. I like the Patriots anytime, no matter who they're playing. They're only 3,000 this week. And then I also, on the lower end, like the Colts at Tampa Bay at 2,400. So that's all I got for this week. I hope that you guys bring home a playoff winner, and I see you next week. Good luck in all of your fantasy endeavors. Have a great week, everyone.